Okay, let's dive right in. We're going to unpack what might be one of the most powerful and honestly challenging stories ever written. It's actually a short parable, kind of tucked away inside this massive novel, but wow, it asks the biggest questions you can imagine. We're talking about God, humanity, and what freedom really means.
So here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll set the stage, get the context for this story within a story. Then things get dramatic. We'll see a miraculous return followed by a shocking arrest. After that, we get this devastating accusation, and we'll dig into how the church basically claims it corrected Christ's biggest mistakes. And the ending? It's not what you think. It all comes down to a single kiss, which leaves us with this one huge final question.
All right, first thing you got to know. The Grand Inquisitor isn't a standalone story. It's actually presented as a poem, a story that one of the main characters, Ivan Karamazov, tells his brother Alyosha. Now, Alyosha is the devout religious one. Ivan is tortured by something theologians call the problem of evil.
And this is what's so fascinating about Ivan's struggle. He couldn't care less about complicated theological debates. For him, it all just boils down to this one raw, gut-wrenching question. He basically says, look, if heaven is built on the suffering of just one innocent child, then it's not worth it. He famously says he'd hand back his ticket. That's the mindset that kicks off this whole story.
So, since none of the traditional answers work for him, Ivan decides to create his own. He comes up with this incredible fantasy, this story. It's his way of trying to wrap his head around this impossible problem. He imagines a second coming, a secret showdown between Christ himself and the very institution that's supposed to represent him on earth.
Okay, so let's get into Ivan's story. The setting is key. He drops us right into 16th century Seville, Spain. And you have to understand, this is the absolute peak, the most brutal height of the Spanish Inquisition. It's a time of just terrifying religious authority, where they're literally burning hundreds of heretics at the stake, all for the greater glory of God.
And right into this furnace of faith and fear, Christ appears, just shows up. He doesn't say a word, but the people, they know him instantly. And he starts performing miracles right there on the street. He heals a blind man. He raises a little girl from her coffin. The crowd is just overwhelmed. Pure love. But the 90-year-old Cardinal Grand Inquisitor, he is not happy. He sees all this, his face just darkens, and with a single gesture, he orders his guards to arrest him. And the crowd? They're so used to his power, they just part like the sea and let it happen. Chilling. So the scene totally shifts. We go from that bright, chaotic public square to a dark stone dungeon. The Inquisitor comes in alone, just holding a lamp. His prisoner is just sitting there in total silence. And this, right here, is where the real story kicks in. But it's not a conversation. It's a long, chilling monologue from this old man. And this is his opening shot. There's no "who are you?" Oh no, he knows exactly who his prisoner is. His accusation is as simple as it is stunning. Why have you come back to mess things up? He says Christ's return is just an interference, a disruption to the work the church has been doing in his name for 1,500 years. And right here you see the heart of the conflict. The Inquisitor's whole argument is that Christ just got human nature totally wrong. The Inquisitor believes people are, frankly, weak, pathetic, and rebellious. He thinks what we really want isn't this terrible burden of free choice that Christ offered. No, what we crave is security, comfort. We want someone to just tell us what to do. So the Inquisitor starts to build his case, almost like a prosecutor. And he does it by going back to the 3 temptations that Christ faced in the desert, from that terrible and clever spirit. The Inquisitor's point is that by rejecting those temptations, Christ made a huge, fatal mistake. A mistake, he says, that the church has spent centuries correcting.
The whole foundation of the Inquisitor's argument comes down to 3 things: miracle, mystery, and authority. He says these are the only tools that can actually control humanity and, in his view, make them happy. And his big accusation is that Christ rejected all 3 of them, all for the sake of a freedom that, let's be honest, people just can't handle.
Okay, let's break them down. Temptation number 1, turn stones into bread. The Inquisitor is like, are you kidding me? You rejected that?
He says that by refusing, Christ doomed millions of people who were just too weak and hungry to choose spiritual food over actual, physical bread. But the church, he says, fixed that mistake. They understood a simple rule. Feed them first, then ask them to be good. They offer security.
Then there's the second temptation. Perform a big public miracle. Jump off the temple. Let the angels catch you. Prove you're divine. Christ said no because he wanted faith to be a free choice. The Inquisitor basically says, that was a huge mistake. People don't want free faith. They want proof. They crave miracles. It's what makes them believe. So the church provides them.
And finally, the third temptation. Take all the kingdoms of the world. Just accept the sword of Caesar and rule over everyone. Christ, of course, rejected earthly power. The Inquisitor claims the church wisely picked up that sword. And why? To finally unite humanity, to end all the wars and chaos, and to give people that one thing they crave more than anything, a single, unified world order.
And then comes the bombshell, the most shocking confession you could possibly imagine. The Inquisitor just flat out says that the church's power, their secret, is that they've sided with that same terrible and clever spirit from the desert. He says, we are not with you, but with him. For 800 years, he admits, they haven't been following Christ at all. They've been following Satan, all to achieve their ultimate goal, the complete happy submission of all humankind.
So, the Inquisitor finally stops talking. I mean, he has just laid out his entire philosophy, his life's work, the secret, dark history of the church itself. He's condemned his prisoner to death and explained exactly why it's the right thing to do. And now, he just waits. He waits for a response from the man who hasn't said a single word this whole time. He finishes with one last ice-cold threat. Tomorrow, he says, I will burn you at the stake. He even adds, Dixie, I have spoken. As in, it's done. And he says the very same people who were worshiping him just hours before will be the ones piling up the wood for the fire.
So what's the comeback? What's the response to this massive argument, to this threat of being burned alive? Absolutely nothing. The prisoner doesn't argue. He doesn't defend himself. He just listens. Quietly.
And then he does something nobody could have seen coming. He just gets up, walks over to the old Inquisitor, and gently kisses him on his old bloodless lips. That's it. That's his only answer. It's just this act of pure, unconditional love, right in the face of total condemnation.
And you can see the Inquisitor just shudder. He's completely shaken. It's like that simple kiss just cut right through all of his cold, hard logic. He walks to the cell door, opens it, and just lets his prisoner go, back out into the dark streets, telling him, go, and don't ever come back. So what does that even mean? Is that the end? Did the kiss win? Did the Inquisitor have a change of heart? Well, Ivan, the one telling the story, he gives us one last really crucial detail that you have to hear. And this is what makes the ending so unbelievably powerful. The kiss absolutely affects the Inquisitor. Ivan says it burns in his heart. But, and this is the whole point, he sticks with his idea. He doesn't change his mind or abandon his life's work. It shows you just how powerful that logic of security over freedom really is. It can't be defeated that easily, not even by an act of divine love.
So, in the end, there's no easy answer. Dostoevsky leaves us hanging right in the middle of this huge dilemma. On one side, you have the Inquisitor's argument. A world with no suffering, where everyone is safe and happy, but totally unfree. And on the other side, you have that silent kiss, which stands for a world of difficult, painful, maybe even chaotic, but meaningful freedom.
And that's where the story leaves us. It turns the question right back around on you, on me, on all of us. It forces us to look at the Inquisitor's logic and see it in our own world, in our own societies. So, what would you choose? Not just for yourself, but for everyone. A difficult, messy freedom, or a comfortable, happy servitude? Dostoevsky doesn't give an answer. He just says the choice is ours.